Today I'm so excited to be hosting the presidential candidate of the United Zimbabwe Alliance, Elisabeth Valerio. The reason behind my inspiration to getting her to be a part of this show is, I contested as a member of parliament in March. So I was like, oh my goodness, this woman is brave. Can I just have a conversation with her? And here today we are, and I'm so excited and I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy for her journey. Welcome, Mama Elisabeth.
Thank you so much, Alice. Thanks for having me on your show.
Pleasure is all mine. Pleasure is all mine. Let's get into business. Just share a little bit of your profile and your political history.
Sure. So political history-wise, I have absolutely no history in politics. This is my first time in politics.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I only got into politics in 2021, and that is at the formation of the United Zimbabwe Alliance. I was elected president. I didn't seek it out. I never imagined I'd be in politics, to be honest with you. Oh. But I somehow feel like I was called to serve.
Okay.
I have historically been working in a number of different sectors. I'm a scientist by background. I have worked in the biotechnology industry. I have an invention, so I'm an inventor. And I ultimately ended up working in the tourism industry. My mom a few years ago passed away, and on her deathbed, she asked me to look after a piece of land at the edge of Hwange National Park, a place where elephants live. And I went down there to honor her promise and to try to put in place, a system for people to look after these elephants. And I ended up living the rest of the last 10 years in the middle of the wilderness. So I'm a conservationist now. I serve as the chairperson for the Tourism Association in Hwange. I've done a lot of work in the educational space, focusing on science, technology, engineering, and math. So there's quite a bit that I do. But at the end of the day, first and foremost, I'm a mother, I'm a woman, a Zimbabwean concerned about the future of our country.
Amazing, amazing. So before you decided to do your own thing, I would like to believe that you were rallying behind a certain political party. Would you please share with us which party you were rallying behind and what made you to disengage and do your own thing?
I've never supported any political party. I've never even
But you were a
thought
registered
about
voter.
it. I've never voted before.
You lie.
This is my first time voting in an election. I saw absolutely no significance in politics. All I saw were people fighting with each other all the time. So to me, it made no sense.
When last did you vote? You've never?
I've never voted in my life.
On,
I registered for the first time as a voter when I became president of UZA. That is the truth. Like I literally have never seen interest in politics. I didn't understand enough about why people were put in positions, but I wasn't seeing anything really specific being done in terms of these individuals that were leading our country. So for me, it was very irrelevant until I realized, sitting with a group of people, that you actually can become relevant.
But not being a voter, a registered voter, doesn't it risk irresponsibility?
It could in some ways, but remember, I was educated abroad. I spent a lot of my life living in the United States. So I wasn't going to vote overseas. I'm a Zimbabwean. So I really had no...
So when did you come to settle in Zimbabwe?
I came back in 2011 after my mom passed away.
And at the time, since that time?
No, because I was so concerned about restoring the space.
Were you dreaming about forming whatever your party today?
Not even. Alice, I've never even had any intention to enter politics. Now it turns out my mom was in politics.
Voting.
You see, the thing is, I know, you're right. And it's so important for people to be out there voting, and young people need to know that is your strength, that is your power. But for me, when I moved back to Hwange, I was so busy fighting just to create something that was viable in the tourism sector. It didn't seem important to me at the time.
That was in favor of your mom's interests, not the nation's interests.
At the time, I wasn't concerned about the nation's interests. I was concerned about educating people in my region. I was concerned about protecting the tourism sector in my region. I did not think about the nation at the time because to me, I thought there were people looking after the nation.
So this dream is premature?
Which dream is premature? the fact that I'm running for president.
Yeah.
No, I think I've been called to serve. I think all along I was being nurtured and groomed and prepared for this. I don't think that it's premature at all. I think sometimes when a nation has gone through whatever it's gone through, there are times, and it's happened in history many times, where something very different has to happen. A woman comes forward to lead a nation and change the whole future of our country. So it's not something that I had to go after. I was called, I believe, by my own ancestors to serve Zimbabwe.
Okay. Wow.
I truly believe that.
Wow.
Queen, as you say, I am a queen called to serve.
All right, moving on. I really want to understand what it really inspired you to take on this journey. And I also want to know if you are self-funded or you do have forces rolling behind you.
Sure. So first of all, the reason I'm on this journey is because I'm concerned about the future of Zimbabwe. We're a very wealthy nation, but we are not benefiting from our own natural resources. So what that means is that children are growing up in this country who tomorrow will remain without anything, because foreigners are in this country taking our wealth, our minerals, and we are not getting any benefit on the ground for the people of Zimbabwe. That's my main reason for participating in this election.
Okay, hold on. Are you in support of United States of Africa?
So I'm a Pan-Africanist.
Okay.
I do believe that Africa has the potential to do more if it worked together. Countries need to work together. We need to remove all these barriers. We need to leverage the diaspora that we have all around the world, and they need to re-engage and uplift the continent. I'm very much a Pan-Africanist.
Okay.
And if you look at my profile, I'm even actively engaging in shaping a path for African unity. So I'm 100% a supporter of that. But at the end of the day, we need to start with our country. Our own country has challenges right now. The children are going to grow up saying, once upon a time, Zimbabwe was a very wealthy nation, but we have nothing left because foreigners have come in and were given free access to whatever they wanted in our country. That's my main reason for contesting in this election. I want to see a very different future. Who's funding us? I'm a self-made millionaire. I've made a lot of money in my lifetime. I've worked hard. So ultimately, I've done my own fair share of supporting our political party, but citizens are also supporting us. We have memberships, citizens contribute, and we are able to do the work that we are doing.
Amazing, amazing.
What we need to do is reclaim our own, what is ours, and stop opening the doors to people who are here to exploit us.
Okay.
You know, there's a big distinction between us, and I see it even in our own political space, where people will, try to essentially create noise around issues, but they don't actually get on with the work of doing something about those issues. And so in Africa, what we need to do is capacitate ourselves with conversations like this, starting off and saying, okay, yes, we are from different backgrounds. You've supported maybe a different political party than one that I would support, right? I've never supported ZANU-PF. But ultimately, I have never, I'll repeat it, I've never supported ZANU-PF.
Okay.
But we still should talk about our common
MCCC?
Interests. I've never supported MDC or CCC. I just have not seen any actual action or benefit being put in terms of like the implementation of the ideas that they profess to have.
Okay.
I want to see action and solutions. I want to see Zimbabwe advance.
Okay.
I want to see the interests of the people being protected. I want to see a change in the way that we view government, where we start saying, let's put the people ahead of us as politicians. In Zimbabwe right now, it's about a few politicians and what they want and their interests. Let's make sure every Zimbabwean's interests are also considered. They are not being looked after. Do you know, like schools are now falling apart. Our teachers are not anymore in this country. They're teaching in other countries. We're losing a lot as a nation. And until we take responsibility and start implementing solutions to fix these problems, we are going to end up with a country that's, it's quite sad already. We're losing our own citizens who are desperately looking for opportunities elsewhere. So at the end of the day, we need to start coming up with action plans and implement them and stop talking. We need to work.
I did. Okay. So I'm not going to speak in favor of my political party.
Please don't. I'm here to replace your party. I literally am here to replace your party.
It is well.
And to replace your president.
It is well.
As you said,
the purpose of this conversation is for me to understand what inspired you and your goal, what you really want to achieve. So moving on, would you mind sharing a brief summary of your manifesto?
Sure. So we have a 4-part manifesto. We wrote it through input from the citizens. We literally traveled across the country and said, what do you want? What do you want in your community, in your area? What are the challenges? What do you want to fix? And the citizens guided us. So we have a 4-part manifesto. The first part is focused on accountability. Zimbabwe is ridden with corruption. We need to get rid of corruption in our country. We need to restore law and order. We need to make sure that citizens' rights are upheld in our country. So accountability is really important to us, and that's the foundation of building Zimbabwe. The next focus for us, law and order, absolutely, the separation of power. We've got to make sure that there is no politicization of our judicial system. So all of that is well articulated in our manifesto. The second part of our manifesto focuses on advancement. How are we going to rebuild our country and create a future that we can be proud of? We need to restore the industrial sector. We need to allow the private sector to do their job and build the economy. We need to stop printing money at the Reserve Bank, and we need a proper banker at the Reserve Bank who's going to make sure that we restore the value in our currency. We have a Zimbabwe dollar. Most people think we don't, but we have a Zimbabwe dollar. It has no value. It's highly inflated. So that requires us getting to work, creating products, developing our agricultural sector, managing our mining sector responsibly. So once all of those things are in place, you'll start to see.
Hold on. I want you to face the camera and speak to the citizens.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So ultimately, what we need is a Zimbabwe where the citizens are actively participating in rebuilding our nation. The third part of our manifesto, we want to make sure that ultimately Zimbabwe has dignity again. If you look at the Zimbabwe that we're living in right now, you travel around the world, people are looking at you and saying, shame, you're from Zimbabwe. I'm tired of being shamed because I'm from Zimbabwe. I want to hold my head up and have dignity and pride. And I want every citizen to have the same thing. We must be able to have Zimbabwe where we are recognized for what we are, a wealthy, successful nation. We have very enterprising people, but we are not allowing them to thrive because of the policies in our country. So dignity is a big part of it. Making sure that our elderly citizens are looked after. Restoring the traditional fabric of Zimbabwe. So our traditional leaders must be respected. They must be, restored in terms of traditional leadership. And then finally, we need to restore the stability of our nation. We need to make sure that Zimbabwe is a country that is secure, whether it's from the security sector, ensuring the army can get back to work on the matters that they are instructed to work on through the Constitution of Zimbabwe, ensuring the police are no longer at police stops hustling for $5 or penalizing the Zimbabwean citizens. We want police forces that have pride and dignity as well, that are known to be protecting and serving our nation, that are working on nation building. So at the end of the day, we need a comprehensive change in government in order to be able to implement all of these policies as the United Zimbabwe Alliance.
Wow, wonderful. Moving on, I saw you carrying a bucket of water. Was it a bucket of water?
Yes, it was.
It was like, okay, this portrays servant leadership. I liked it. But then I thought to myself, would this help here garner votes? Would this help here melt the people's hearts? You get it?
Yeah.
And I wondered, I was like, what has she been doing for the past 5 years? At least 5 years. We're not going to look at 10 years. At least 5 years. What has she been doing to transform the lives of the Zimbabwean citizens?
Sure, it's an important question because we've got a lot of politicians who emerge and they've done nothing. So the bucket, for me, I wanted to know what our young children in Zimbabwe are facing. I went to, we were in Bulawayo, and in one of the constituencies in Bulawayo, there were kids at Pachiborani, and they were pumping water. And it struck me that children should be playing, in parks, they should be reading books, they should be enjoying their lives. But these kids were worried about bringing water to their homes, to their families. And these kids are carrying those buckets on their head to bring water to their families so that they can bath.
They can't always be playing. This is an African society where your mothers would train you to go and pump wood out, fetch firewood, do this and that.
I respect that, and yes, I respect our culture. But could we allow them to have their childhood as children? Could we allow them to have that carefreeness so they can be imagining and inventing and creating in their heads what they will become? Yeah, so I'm not trying to change our culture, but I do believe that it's the government's responsibility to bring water to our homes so that we can have that dignity of turning on a tap and not spending our days pumping. Even the elephants have solar-powered water coming to the water holes, but Zimbabwean citizens are sitting pajiborani, boreholes. That's not the way to solve our problems. So what have I done? I have put in water at secondary schools in Zimbabwe. We've got schools in our own community where I have actually invested in STEM education in Dete. So I have a program which supports schools in our region. I was the first person to really...
Kindly clarify on STEM for those that, the laymen.
Yeah, so STEM is, it's not a new phenomenon, right? It's what we work on. It's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As part of my community, people found out that I was a biochemist. So they invited me to come to an award ceremony for kids in our area from secondary school who are graduating with the best, marks, the best passes. And I asked them, so how many of the children have studied biology? Do you know what the answer was? 0. How many are studying physics? In my region, 0. This is a few years ago. How many chemistry? It was 0, literally all zeros. So I realized that we needed to implement STEM-based topics or subjects in our curriculum in our region. And the reason was because they just didn't have the teachers to teach those subjects. We've lost all of our good STEM teachers. They've gone to other countries because they're not being paid well in our country. So at the end of the day, what I ended up doing is creating a program where we were bringing teachers every single week to teach them how to teach STEM. I shared this, of course, and it became a national program. But at first, in our area, yes, really, we'll talk about that another time. But ultimately, we have done very well in terms of reintroducing STEM education in Hwange, within the region of Hwange. Now most of the schools are teaching STEM topics. So we've got physics, we've got chemistry, and we are teaching teachers how to actually teach those subjects. Thank you. And other things we've done, when you say what have you done as a politician, I've worked a lot on restoring culture in our area. I have built the Banambia exhibit, which is on my property at our tourism destination. We are celebrating the Nambia people. Before I came into the scene, we were not even translating in Parliament to the Nambia language, but we highlighted and showcased the Nambia culture to where now even in Parliament they're translating to Nambia. So I do take credit for that.
That was your initiative?
It wasn't my initiative as such, but we brought so much attention to the Nambia community that I think now that has helped for even government to realize and recognize that there are many cultures and we need to recognize them. We've now also started to prepare a publication, a book about the history of the Nambia people. But there's so much I could continue to talk. We have a program right now where we are also doing research. I'm an ethnobotanist, so we're doing research on plants, natural indigenous plants, and we're trying to figure out how to make medicines from them and how to make natural foods that are good for your body. I'm using my chemistry, my physics, my background in terms of science as well. So I've done a lot as an emerging politician in Zimbabwe.
Wow, amazing. So, given a chance to be the president of Zimbabwe for a single day, what's that one thing you'd want to, that one challenge, the main challenge you'd want to address first?
I'm going to stop the exploitation of our country by foreigners. That is the one thing I want to ensure. That's the reason I'm sitting on this stage as your presidential candidate, is because ultimately we need to stop the bleeding in our country. We need to retain our wealth, and it must serve the people of Zimbabwe. That's the one main thing, but I have many things. We need to protect the girl child. You know, girls are being married at such young ages.
You know? I asked for one.
Okay, I know. I'm sorry, I was trying to sneak the others in there.
It's all right, I asked for one.
It's okay.
It's all right. Important points you raised. Okay, moving on. You know, I'm a women's rights activist, and I always tell people that patriarchy is a system that seeks to pull women down, diminish their power, and all that. So, what's your thoughts on the issue of gender parity in the political space?
My thoughts are that we're not doing enough for women, and I don't really 100% agree that just simply implementing something on the national constitution and saying we need proportionate representation, and I don't think that's enough. I think we need to intentionally support the development of women in politics. I think that women are not being given recognition as potential leaders in this country. I think we need to work on our cultural mindset. We need a mind shift in Zimbabwe. And we need to remember that women were leaders centuries ago. Indeed. Women were leaders in our history. And so why now are we suddenly not recognizing women and realizing that they can lead? Women come to the table with something special.
Where are we standing statistics-wise? Mm-hmm. Where are we standing in parliament as women?
Well, so we have regressed. That's sad, the sad reality. We never came to our 50%, and now from the 30-something% that we were at, we've now regressed even further. When you look at this, percentage? I don't know the actual the data. I know I've been shown a lot of data in the last few weeks, but
are you not following up?
I am following. I'm following the data for my own political party.
Oh, come
on. No, I'm being serious. Because we have the highest proportion of women represented on the ballot. If you look at the proportion of every political party, we have the highest proportion. So I'm focusing on my political party.
Do you really have the women's interests at heart?
I certainly do. I certainly do, and I've engaged.
Why are you not following up on the statistics?
So the reality is, we now have a much smaller number on this election's ballot than we had in the preceding election. And I can tell you that, and we've slipped by more than 10%. Statistically, I know that a lot of the political parties profess to have women's interests at heart. They profess to support a 50-50 gender balance, but at the end of the day, we are not seeing it turn up in the numbers.
But does the blame go to the ruling party, or is about women or patriarchy?
So the ruling party is failing. Triple C, MDC, they all have not demonstrated the ability to deliver the numbers when you talk about 50-50. And they've had decades to do this work. I'm coming into this 2 years into this, and I'm already a higher proportion of women than all of those parties combined, right? So that tells you a lot. They're not serious about it. What I believe is that women, it's us that have to take that mandate up. Regardless of which political party we represent, we have to start talking about what do we need to do together to make sure more women have that confidence, that ability to step up, and that they are well equipped to step up. So it actually comes down to forget the political affiliations. Let's talk about it as women. Let's find solutions. I reached out to some of the other women leaders, and you'll find some of them are actually not even willing to engage because they're more concerned. What
solutions do you have in mind?
Well, we need to start specifically mentoring the women that are coming up in politics. We need to intentionally capacitate them, whether it's empowering them through...
Have we had programs to capacitate
100%. 100%. We're forming 30 companies right now. Okay. 30 companies as the United Zimbabwe Alliance, and there are 2 demographics that are leading that initiative, women and youth, and they are the ones that are driving this initiative to create jobs, to create opportunities, so women can have their own capacity to then be exploited by Zimbabwe Electoral Commission when it's time to pay nomination fees. It's really a disadvantage when you think about the fact that they were told to pay $1,000 for the chance to contest in an election. As a presidential candidate, I had to pay $20,000. So we are capacitating them and saying, okay, it's going to cost flyers, it's going to cost them having transport, airtime. Let them flyers, posters as politicians. And they should fly too if they want to fly. I mean, we've got airlines flying around Zimbabwe. But ultimately, we want to capacitate them to be able to stand on their own and not be disadvantaged because they are women. Normally, you'll find a woman has to then go to her husband and say, can you help me? I need to pay for whatever it is that I'm doing in politics. We need to change that. We need women to have their own capacity economically as well as politically.
Wow. Do you have any plans concerning the girl child or just women in general in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, very big plans. So first of all, we need to address basic issues like child mortality. Our hospitals are not well equipped. Women are actually even dying in childbirth. That's not supposed to happen anymore, not this day and age. So we need to protect women in terms of their medical well-being.
The president has been working so hard towards resuscitating the health sector.
Really?
Yeah.
You believe he's making progress in that
Indeed.
department? Is that what they tell you? Because what I see, what I see when I go to Parreñatwa is ill-equipped hospitals.
When last
People
did you
are.
visit Parreñatwa?
I was there just a few weeks ago. I had one of our party members who was not feeling well. And honestly, it's not, people are complaining about the cost of...
It's not just a card to put on the...
I don't do that. I'm one person who's very forthright and transparent. I don't play cards. And I'm not your typical politician who does things for gimmicks either, by the way. I do things out of true intent. I've got a master's degree in public health. I understand what a fully functional medical system should look like. I've been there, done that. I've created medicines, and I've got medicines that are being sold in other countries.
You've created medicines?
Yes, I have, in laboratories overseas. I am a biochemist. I've actually created medicines, and I'm now creating medicines using indigenous plants in our own region, in Nwange there. I'm actually doing it. So when you talk of the women's needs, we need to also address other issues. For example, we need to sort of equalize the educational system. Women were left behind, even as as far back as the 1980s. We won't talk of pre-colonization, but even post-independence, women were left behind. Men were the ones going to universities. Women were always sort of the ones to stay home and take care of the children. We need to give women the ability to also advance themselves educationally. But even more important than that, to me, I want to see an end of children who are born by women on the streets trying to sell things and make a living. Children should not be working. They should not be exploited as child labor. We need children to be children, developing themselves, learning, growing, playing, yes, but at the same time, they need to be children. They need to be allowed to develop. And we need to put an end to this early marriage issue that we have in Zimbabwe that we pretend is okay. It's not okay. It actually makes me very upset to see the president sitting with people who are marrying girls at 10 or 12. The current president needs to address that issue. We have children who are getting pregnant at 11 years of age, dying in childbirth. We need to address this issue. We need to honestly take a hard look at what we are doing in this country, the practices that we are allowing to take place, because at the end of the day, the law is the law, and people should be held accountable. We cannot continue to live like this. Girls should not be abused.
Well, this is not a platform to be debating, but I only give you a platform to speak your mind and to speak to the citizens of Zimbabwe as the presidential candidate.
Thank you.
But Madam President, where have you been hiding? When did you found user A? And why have you been hiding?
I've never been hiding. So I've been in Nwange. I've been operating, I've been building one of the biggest tourism destinations for people to come from other countries and enjoy the wildlife in Nwange. I've been living, practicing what I've said I would do. I'm contributing to building Zimbabwe. So in Nwange, I have created jobs. In Nwange, I have supported educational advancement for our schools. I was recognized last year as Woman of the Year at Sanganai, as Woman of the Year in the tourism sector. I have been fighting to keep Chinese coal mining out of Nwange National Park. I have not been hiding. I was the person that authored the letter to President Mnangagwa saying, please, let's do the right thing. And they did listen. And I'm thankful for that. But then I ended up seeing that the whole country is being taken over.
Shout out to the HE.
I'm not doing that right now. I'm simply saying, if you're going to shout out to him, tell him please to stop opening up the doors to China, to Russia, and to all of these others that are exploiting our resources. Let's put Zimbabweans first. Let's put them ahead of others and give them the chance to exploit our country and to benefit and to grow. We want to see a Zimbabwe where everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive. It doesn't matter where they come from within Zimbabwe, as long as they are citizens. Let's restore Zimbabwe first, rather than, these others that are coming in.
Viewers across the world, we have run out of time, and I'm so excited, and the braveness is unmatched. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Anything to do with women, I'm so fond of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My braveness comes from my mother. She was the first woman in Africa to form a political party. She contested against Mugabe.
Really?
So my braveness...
Which party?
Her party's name was the Zimbabwe People's Democratic Party.
Okay. Okay.
And I didn't expect to follow in her footsteps, but her spirit is within me. So clearly I'm carrying on her work.
Oh,
Yeah.
well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Well
Thank you
done.
very much.
Well done. Wish you the best.
This time you need to vote for a woman. Vote for a woman. Let's do it for women's sake, for the future of our country.
Your braveness, like I said, is unmatched.
Thank you.
Of the 11,
It's 11 men. Imagine.
Imagine.
The only woman.
Well done, well done, well done, well done.
The only woman.
Our gender is so happy for you.
Thank you.
Our
Thank you
gender
very
is
much.
so happy for you. Viewers, this was UZA presidential candidate Elisabeth Valerio, and my name is Alice Dagwira.